History occasionally turns up objects that seem to belong to the wrong century. These are anachronisms, artifacts that completely defy our accepted timeline of human invention. We trace the first working electric battery back to Alessandro Volta in the year 1800. Finding a functional power source built 2,000 years earlier in ancient Mesopotamia simply shouldn't be possible. Yet in 1936, a crew of earth-moving workers digging near Kujut Rabu in Iraq unearthed a strange 14-centimeter terracotta jar sitting among the ruins of the Parthian Empire. This clay pot suggested that electricity was a known tool long before the Enlightenment, forcing a massive reassessment of ancient Mesopotamian engineering. The object itself is highly specific. Inside a yellow clay pot sits a cylinder rolled from sheet copper. Suspended perfectly in the center of that copper is a highly corroded iron rod, all held tightly in place by a thick plug of asphalt. 2 years after its discovery, Wilhelm Koenig, the director of the laboratory at the National Museum of Iraq, examined these components. He recognized that this specific arrangement of materials was not random. Koenig hypothesized that placing two dissimilar metals together in this exact configuration perfectly matched the design of a primitive galvanic cell. By interpreting the artifact entirely through the lens of modern engineering, he concluded that ancient artisans were actively harnessing electrical currents. To understand his reasoning, we must look at a basic galvanic cell. Pairing different metals, like copper and iron, creates electrical potential. Introducing an acidic electrolyte, like vinegar or grape juice, triggers a reaction that strips electrons, generating steady voltage. Modern engineers have tested this exact setup. Using replica clay jars filled with lemon juice, researchers successfully generated up to 4 volts of electricity. If we isolate the object and test its chemical capability in a vacuum, it functions perfectly as a battery. But possessing the chemical capability to perform a function does not mean an object was designed for that purpose. As an active power source, the design has fatal logistical flaws. Excavators never found any conductive wires to actually complete a circuit. Even worse, that thick asphalt seal holding everything together is completely watertight, which makes refilling the liquid electrolyte virtually impossible. Koenig originally guessed the electrical current was used to electroplate gold onto silver jewelry, but chemical analysis of ancient gilded artifacts shows Parthian silversmiths used heat and liquid mercury to bond metals, a technique leaving entirely different chemical residues. The battery theory only survives if we strip away the practical everyday reality of the people who actually lived and worked in the region. The surrounding archaeological context provides the missing link. In the nearby ruins of Seleucia, excavators found nearly identical vessels sitting in their original, undisturbed settings. Those jars were found intact. They were storage vessels for fragile papyrus scrolls, rolled tightly around an iron rod and protected by a copper casing. Over thousands of years, papyrus breaks down. As it degrades, it leaves a highly acidic chemical byproduct, the exact signature discovered inside the Baghdad jar. These weren't power sources, they were protective vessels. Ancient people buried these containers deep in building foundations, filled with written spells to ward off demons. Proper context strips away the myth of advanced machinery, revealing a tradition of using common metals to protect what was sacred. The Baghdad Battery illustrates the trap of projecting our modern obsessions onto the past. When we look for familiar technology, we miss the actual ingenuity of ancient people, who used local materials like copper, iron, and asphalt to fiercely protect what was sacred to them. Yet, in a cruel irony, just as the true purpose of the object has become clear, the physical artifact itself has vanished. In 2003, the United States invasion of Iraq created a massive, immediate security vacuum across Baghdad. During the resulting chaos, the Iraqi National Museum was catastrophically looted. The Baghdad Battery was stolen right out of the archives, disappearing into the black market alongside thousands of other priceless antiquities. The loss of the Baghdad Battery signifies a blow to physical heritage as much as scientific theory. A piece of history has vanished into the shadows, proving how easily the physical record can be erased.